In today's video, I'm going to tell you the truth about dappled willow. Dun 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 dun! I'm Laura from Garden Sanity, and yes, there is something you need to know about dappled willow, especially if you love it as much as I do. Here in our backyard, we have a living wall of dappled willow. It's so beautiful. And this spring, I'm cutting it all down to the ground. What did I say? Am I crazy? No, I'm not crazy. At least I don't think so. But I want you to stay tuned because you may want to do this to your own dappled willow, especially, like I said, if you love it as much as I do. So, okay, I'll stop teasing. Let's get started. Dappled willow is a gorgeous shrub with year-round interest. It's one of my favorite shrubs. In spring, the leaves are variegated with so many pink and peach-colored leaves that they look like flowers. In the summer and in the fall, the leaves remain a dappled mix of ivory and green. It's so pretty. Although there's not really any great fall color, in winter there are beautiful reddish stems that provide wonderful winter interest. Unless, of course, you neglected to prune them as often as you usually do, and then you just kind of didn't know what to do and you weren't sure, and the next thing you know it's a little overgrown and the leaves are kind of looking green more than mottled, and yes, I'm talking about me. You're going to learn from my mistakes. These dappled willow shrubs are 10 years old. This shrub was the first one here. We originally bought it in 2009 and we had it planted in the front yard and realized it was getting a lot bigger for the space than we wanted it to be. So we put it back here knowing it could grow lovely and nicely and huge and look gorgeous. So we planted that back here in 2010, along with this guy next to it and that guy. So these two are, believe it or not, cuttings from that original shrub. So all three of these were planted in 2010. By the next year, in 2011, they were about 5 or 6 feet tall. This fence that we have is 6 feet tall, just to give you a frame of reference. In my original blog post about these, written back in 2013, I happily shared how we could let these shrubs go crazy here in our backyard. Didn't have to worry about anything. We knew it would give us some nice privacy. In 2016, we planted 2 additional cuttings. And now we come to the truth about dappled willows. If you don't keep them in check, they're going to grow wild and go crazy, like I happily wrote about back in 2013 on my Pet Scribbles blog. Although we did prune them, and we trimmed them back a bit, we weren't concerned about their height and spread to the point of being anal about it. And that was in part because the birds loved building nests inside the shrub. We had cardinals, robins, and we had little birds. I have no idea what they were. I just never wanted to disturb them. But if you don't pay attention, 3 things could happen, and most likely will happen. 1, your shrubs are going to kind of get a little bit out of control. They're going to need a hard pruning. 2nd, the inside will die back. The outside is still going to look beautiful, but once that all goes away, and you'll especially notice it in the late fall, winter, when the stems are bare, they're not going to be red anymore, and they're going to look almost dead. It's just not a pretty shrub. It almost really looks like it's begging for something to happen to it. It needs help. It's a little out of control. The 3rd thing that happens is that the leaves kind of start losing their mottled, dappled look. So instead of being a beautiful combination of green and ivory, they, in some cases, revert to all green. We even had a couple branches all ivory. It just was not pretty. It was no longer the gorgeous shrub it's been. So here's the reality. A year ago, in the early spring, I knew we had a problem, judging by the amount of dead twigs and stems, and in some cases, complete branches. With my husband's help, we set to work. We decided step 1 would be to prune back the dead branches and cut off what we could, and then see what we were left with. We also decided not to cut off the top of the shrubs just yet, as that would be step 2. Here's a video of what everything looked like when we were finished with step 1 last spring. You can see that the top growth is fine, but there's so much empty space and a lack of stems. That's because once we removed the outer stems of the shrubs that were very overgrown, from here all the way to here in some cases, we were left with the inside of the shrub which wasn't getting much sun and died out. After cutting all of the dead twigs and stems and overgrown branches, this was the result. So it's always good for your shrubs to have some air circulation in between so the air moves through. They don't get fungal diseases this way, no mold occurs. But this is kind of ridiculous. It's a little too much air circulation, but we needed to do something extreme. The shrubs did fill in a bit during the summer, but as you can see today in January, some of the main trunks of these shrubs are growing in an almost horizontal way. This needs to be corrected. So this is our newest shrub, and this is actually what we want for all the shrubs. You can see how the main stems that are almost becoming trunks, how they're uniform, they kind of grow up and then out. You can see the growth with the stems is pretty uniform on all sides. We're trying to keep a better eye on this one, and this is actually what we want for the rest of our living dappled willow wall. This is the goal. And so we need to start fresh. So what's the plan? So the process of cutting everything down, the technique is called coppicing or coppice. And the benefits of coppicing, especially in terms of the dappled willow shrubs, it's going to give us better stem color. It's going to have vigorous growth because once I cut everything down, it's going to make the willow just want to kick in and start to regrow. If you look at all these stems that popped out from our hard pruning last spring, that gives you an idea. And that was what step one was all about for us. We wanted to see, well, what happens if we cut it all back? And the vigorous growth with all the new stems showed us that yes, this is going to work. You're going to get better leaf color as well. It's going to be much easier to maintain the shrub. It's going to, in a sense, rejuvenate the shrub. And one of the things that's most important for us is the birds will be able to visit and build their nests again. The cardinals especially, we absolutely love. So in a sense, what coppicing does is it gets the shrub to start over. It gives it literally a fresh start. So in a nutshell, probably in early to mid-March, all of this will go. It's all going to get cut down to the ground. What we need is a shrub that's going to grow more upright and fill in, and we'll just start fresh. So I'll be doing a video to show you that whole process, at least most of the process, and that'll come in March. So please subscribe to the channel so you don't miss a thing. And in the meantime, I will see you soon.